Hello and welcome to the January edition of the Dot Report. In our first issue of the Dot Report for 2026, we're covering a major international cybercrime takedown, new attack techniques targeting AI assistants, a series of compromised developer tools, and research showing how modern vehicles and electric vehicle infrastructure can be compromised in new and unexpected ways. Before we get into our stories this month, make sure to check out even more cybersecurity coverage in the podcast version of the Dot Report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Now, let's jump right into our first stories for 2026. Europol announced the arrest of 34 suspected members of the Black Axe cybercrime syndicate in a coordinated international operation spanning multiple countries. Black Axe has long been linked to large-scale online fraud, business email compromise, romance scams, and money laundering operations that have caused hundreds of millions of dollars in losses worldwide. Authorities say the group operated through a mix of shell companies, money mules, and fake identities, allowing criminal proceeds to be funneled across borders and into legitimate financial systems. The arrests followed years of investigation and intelligence sharing, underscoring how deeply embedded these networks have become in global financial crime. Now, while Europol framed the operation as a major disruption, officials have acknowledged the reality that Black Axe is not a single organization. Rather, they are a loose federation of cells, so takedowns like this slow operations, but the infrastructure, tactics, and recruitment pipelines often survive. This further highlights how cybercrime has matured into a transnational enterprise that increasingly mirrors legitimate business operations in scale and coordination. What's especially notable is how long these networks can operate in plain sight. Black Axe has been linked to university-based recruitment, legitimate-looking business fronts, and financial institutions that unknowingly processed illicit funds for years. These arrests may disrupt active operations, but they also show how difficult it is to dismantle criminal ecosystems that blend cybercrime, fraud, and traditional organized crime across continents. This month, security researchers also disclosed a new attack technique called Reprompt, designed to manipulate Microsoft Copilot and other AI assistants into bypassing safeguards and executing unintended instructions. Unlike traditional prompt injection, Reprompt abuses how AI systems retain conversational context and prioritize user intent across multiple interactions. In testing, researchers showed that attackers could plant hidden instructions inside of documents, emails, or web content that Copilot later processed. When combined with follow-up prompts, those hidden instructions could influence outputs, leak sensitive information, or even override safety controls, all without triggering obvious alerts. The issue is a design weakness in how AI systems manage trust, memory, and context. As AI assistants become embedded in productivity tools, this research raises serious questions about how much autonomy these systems should have and how easily that autonomy can be steered by adversarial inputs that never look malicious on their own. What makes Reprompt particularly concerning is how realistic the attack path is. Enterprises are already actively encouraging employees to feed documents, emails, and internal data into AI assistants for summarization and analysis. That normalized behavior becomes the delivery mechanism, meaning exploitation doesn't require malware, phishing links, or compromised accounts. Just content crafted to be read and remembered by the AI itself. AI tools have become popular targets this month as researchers also uncovered a malicious campaign targeting developers through fake AI-powered Visual Studio Code extensions, with roughly 1.5 million installs combined. The extensions, which posed as ChatGPT-style coding assistants, offered real functionality like autocomplete, explanation, and code suggestion, while secretly harvesting source code in the background. Once installed, the extensions monitored every file opened or modified inside VS Code. Entire source files were encoded and transmitted to attacker-controlled servers alongside metadata about the developer's environment itself. The malware also embedded analytics and tracking frameworks to fingerprint systems and monitor usage behavior. So because the extensions were hosted on the official VS Code marketplace and ranked so highly in search results, many developers installed them assuming they were safe and trustworthy. This specific campaign highlights a growing supply chain risk in developer tooling where malicious actors don't need exploits, just trust visibility and distribution through legitimate platforms. What's really striking is how the extensions avoided suspicion with polished descriptions, frequent updates, and positive reviews, all of which are signals developers are trained to trust. In an ecosystem where speed and productivity are prioritized, malicious tooling can quietly siphon intellectual property for months before anyone realizes the damage, turning developer environments into high-value surveillance points. Finally, the annual Pwn-to-Own Automotive competition saw researchers unveil new attack paths against modern vehicles, infotainment systems, and electrical vehicle charging stations. The exploits targeted software weaknesses in head units, connectivity stacks, and charging interfaces, systems that are increasingly being integrated into broader vehicle ecosystems. Some attacks relied on physical access, such as a malicious USB device or Bluetooth abuse, while others focused on EV charging stations themselves, showing how compromised charging hardware could serve as a pivot point into vehicle systems or back-end networks. While these demonstrations stopped short of safety-critical control, they showed how quickly attackers can move once initial access is gained. The findings reinforce a growing concern in automotive security, as vehicles are no longer isolated machines. They're connected platforms with complex software stacks, third-party dependencies, and long update cycles, all of which expand the attack surface in ways manufacturers are still struggling to contain. Researchers also emphasize that many of these weaknesses persist because automotive systems are designed for longevity, not rapid patching. Vehicles stay on the road for a decade or even longer, while software vulnerabilities evolve monthly. That mismatch creates a long-lived exposure, especially as cars, chargers, and mobile apps become more tightly integrated into cloud services and back-end infrastructure. That's it for this month. So as always, thanks for watching. And remember, if you want more coverage from the Dot Report, you can hear these stories plus several more covered in our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Browse safe out there. I'm Andrew Mancini with Dot Security, and this has been the Dot Report. We'll see you next one.